Well, hi friends, pro-life leader Frank Pavone here. It's such a joy for me to bring you these daily diaries, especially this one. We're going to talk about Wednesday, January 17th through Monday, January 22nd. We call it every year the Pro-Life Super Bowl because of the dozens of events sponsored by dozens of groups taking place not only in Washington, D.C., but clear across the country, including in the West Coast. And boy, these were intense days. Let me go start with the 17th. How I was in Port Chester visiting my family there with my mom on the 17th in the morning, and had a 6:30 a.m. radio interview to start the day. Did some various work on my emails with topics like a special video for Rachel's Vineyard, one of our ministries, as you know, scheduling presentations coming up in the near future, writing, finalizing, approving, and distributing various opinion pieces, approvals of emails going out to our full list, and also communication with our social media department about content, especially during these days. I had the pleasant task of undecorating the Christmas tree there at home, and of course, I always have liked Christmas, and so you don't want to see it end. But because you like it so much, you even enjoy taking the decorations down and looking forward, of course, to next year. So I did that kind of work there at home in the morning, together with helping out my mom and different things in the house, different things that had to be done, and visiting with her there for the morning of the 17th. Then just after lunch, I got picked up for the, let's see, did I have another interview? I think I had a couple of, I had another interview there before leaving there on the 17th. And then got ready to go to the airport, was picked up, went to the White Plains Airport, and flew to Washington, D.C. on the way, doing various work on my laptop and getting ready for the eventful days ahead. Landed there in Washington and connected with my staff, some of whom were already there. We had a business planning meeting, including with Deacon Keith, who is one of the close associates of Bishop Strickland, who was going to be coming in the next day and did. Then we had a planning meeting, and also Father David Begany, a priest on our staff, met us there for dinner, and we had a good, fruitful dinner there in Washington, D.C. with our Washington, D.C. staff person as well as our executive director. Okay, Thursday morning, January just make sure I have everything here. Thursday morning, January the 18th. Woke up there in Washington to a flurry of media interviews starting at 7 in the morning. I got 7 in the morning radio interview, and then met up with our executive director for a quick breakfast, again with some planning for the day, and also with Deacon Keith there. Then went back up to my room, had a Skype interview on Real America's Voice at about 8:20. Soon as that interview was over, I had to run down and hop into the car that took us over to the Planned Parenthood, where I then kicked off the national protest of Planned Parenthood there at the Washington, D.C. headquarters. Various other pro-life leaders of national and local groups came, and we gave them each an opportunity to speak. But just as soon as I kicked it off, then I had to go off to the side and do 2 interviews. One, a radio interview from 9:06 until 9:30, and then right at 9:30 hopped onto another national interview for America Family Association Radio with Jenna Ellis, and she had me on for a good 45 minutes, after which I walked back over to where the rally was happening in front of Planned Parenthood and spoke there and continued to lead the crowd in prayer. You can see it on our social media channels. I had to then hop in the car at 11, and then at 11:06 get on the phone for another 20-minute interview with a radio station in North Dakota. Right after that, went into the hotel and had a lunch meeting with our team. After that lunch meeting, we hopped back in the car and went over to the White House, where I joined up with some other pro-life leaders for a 1 o'clock prayer vigil / protest, where we showed the pictures of what abortion is and showed them right across there from the White House to this pro-abortion gentleman who occupies that office. Then after doing that, we headed over to the Basilica Shrine of the Immaculate Conception. Now, every year, the night before the March for Life, there's a big Mass for Life. And I go there as people are gathering to the Mass and for the Mass, and spent there about 2 hours greeting people, taking pictures, encouraging folks, people whose churches and pro-life groups I had visited over the years, so many reconnections happening. But when we first got there, before I started greeting all these people, Father Leo Patalinghug was there, and you know he has the cooking show on EWTN. He wanted to interview me, and so I went over to his little van that was there where he makes his very good food, very good recipes. And he gave me an interview and also a little bit of a shrimp to eat. So greeted him, then greeted all the people coming into the Basilica, walked around inside, outside, saw my alma mater, Dunwoody, St. Joseph's Seminary, saw the rector and the various seminarians there. A lot of people giving me strong encouragement for our pro-life work. Finished that up at about 4 o'clock. Hopped into the car to take us back to the hotel, and on the way in the car, got on the phone for an interview, national interview with Dr. Sebastian Gorka. I'm grateful to Seb for his program, America First, and for his constant support of me and the pro-life effort, and of course his support of America, President Trump, and so forth. Got to the hotel, went to my room, changed, and got ready for the events of the evening, because then about 45 minutes later at 5 o'clock, went to the Vans for Life dinner. And this was an event held over in Arlington at a big hotel, over 700 people. Eddie Perez, these are vans. This is a project to put mobile pregnancy vans in front of abortion facilities around the country. And Eddie has had me say the opening prayer for that evening's event, as well as the closing prayer. And of course, I interacted with countless pro-life activists and supporters there at that event. And upon finishing that event, I was with one staff person there. We both went back to the hotel and greeted Mark Houck and his family. And they had been in our suite. Bishop Strickland, meanwhile, had arrived. Our executive director, Janet, had picked him up from the airport while I was doing all these other afternoon activities. And we spoke with Mark and his family for a while. Some of the email things I had to do on Thursday the 18th had to do with preparation for the West Coast Walk for Life, preparations for the Vans for Life, as I mentioned, the Pro-Life University, getting ready to announce that the next day, final preparations for the prayer service, some communication with our technical department about our texting service, and some communication with the Epic Times, who's covering our events during these days. Then came Friday the 19th, the day of the March for Life. Just had to do one email task in terms of promoting the different opinion pieces that I had written. But otherwise, that day, the 19th, was totally taken up with the prayer service and the march. And what a great day it was. Got together with our team nice and early in the morning, went over to Constitution Hall at 6:45, got ready for the Mass, which Bishop Strickland said, greeted him, of course, in the morning as we drove over, and we greeted people arriving in Constitution Hall for this national prayer service, which we run every year. Got the VIPs and the clergy ready, assigned them their parts for the service, and then we had the procession. Our MC was our executive director, Janet. We gave the Pro-Life Award to Sister Dee Dee didn't want it for herself, but she honored the pro-life people who are currently in prison for their peaceful pro-life activism. And then we gave the award to Bishop Strickland, to Mark Houck, and to Mark Lee Dixon. They each spoke I gave my message to the gathering. People were just exultant in praise and in prayer. And once the service finished, a little bit after 10 a.m., we had the meet and greet photo op session in the lobby of the hall, and it was beautiful. We had various media there, including Epoch Times and others. We had the bishop signing programs, and myself also, and blessing people. Janet was there, Sister Dee Dee, Mark Lee Dixon, Alveda King there with us, greeting people. It was really nice. We did that for about an hour, at which point then Bishop Strickland and I and Deacon Keith and a couple of our staff got into a vehicle and drove down to the main stage area where the March for Life rally was getting ready to start, and various leaders were arriving and other bishops. So we greeted the various leaders as they came there to the gathering point, had some great conversations. We were standing in the snow, and the light snow was coming down. And then we walked right over to where the March for Life was beginning, and Bishop and I walked together with Deacon Keith through the course of the entire march, and two of our staff people with us taking photos and videos. We made it all the way up to the Supreme Court, at which point both Bishop and I got onto the platform, which had already been set up, and our Silent No More awareness campaign was gathered to begin the round of testimonies. And we, after saying some prayers and some remarks, we listened to these beautiful testimonies from women as well as men, in English as well as in Spanish, testifying to the harm abortion does and to the healing that is available in Jesus Christ. What a beautiful gathering it was, as we have had every year for over 20 years. Just before it finished, though, we had to go up to meet our car to take us to the airport, because Bishop and Deacon Keith were scheduled to go back to Texas. I went to the airport to get onto a plane to San Francisco. However, when I got there, delay because of the weather. And then the flight got so delayed that it was clear I wouldn't make it to San Francisco because I would miss the only connection that was available to get me there on time. So I had to cancel the plans to go. What was set up was for me to help lead events over at the West Coast Walk for Life, including a Silent No More gathering, as I've been telling you about. But unfortunately, I had to cancel those flights and go back to the hotel. However, when I went back, I met up with our Silent No More campaign with some of those who had given testimony during the course of the afternoon, and we had a debriefing there in the hotel and a time of encouragement and reflection together. Went to bed and then got up the next morning, and being I wasn't going to San Francisco, I was able to meet with staff as they were getting ready to go to the Students for Life conference, and meanwhile helping them, I also had a ton of things to catch up on my email and with my work there. So I just devoted the day to working there in Washington. Some work for our upcoming national survey that we'll be releasing. Some work relating to updating upcoming travel plans. Approval of email blasts going out. Our FOIA request to the government, talking with our attorneys about the progress on that. Following up on the announcement we made about the Pro-Life University. Data follow-up to the March for Life, and also plans for the Good Shepherd Project, our ongoing seminars for clergy. So between all of that and checking in with our staff, and then a dinner with some of our key staff people in the evening, which was nice, all those that we brought to D.C. to help with all these different events. We gathered at night for a nice Italian dinner, and grateful to everybody for that. The next day, Sunday the 21st, was a day of preparations and wrapping up. Also, we had to help our team that was then driving back to Florida with all our materials that were left over from our activities, from the prayer service, from the exhibit booth at the conference. So we helped them get everything packed up and ready in the morning. Meetings with our Washington, D.C. staff and as well as our executive director took the opportunity to do some planning, looking ahead and also wrapping up from the March for Life. We worked there in the hotel room for a while. And then the three of us, again, our DC staff person, our executive director, we went to Mass over at St. Joseph's on Capitol Hill. Nice noonday Mass there, nice conversation with the pastor, who was very appreciative of our work. And then we went back to the hotel, did more work through the course of the afternoon. Let's see, I mentioned some of the topics I had to deal with. The Good Shepherd Seminar, again, planning for that. Communication with our friend Alan Parker of the Justice Foundation about some other initiatives, calls with pro-life leaders being planned for the coming days, as well as the February 7th rally at the Florida Supreme Court that I will be part of, some communications about that as well. And then we had a nice dinner also Sunday night with some staff. Monday the 22nd, we had another event. So got up early, did some work on emails relating to communications with our fundraising team, with our studio team, request for Alveda King for some media that I handled that request, and also approval of a Priest for Life email going out. But it was the 51st anniversary of Roe v. Wade. It was also Alveda King's birthday, so I invited you, and I know many of you responded to give her good birthday wishes. And in fact, if you didn't, if you want to just leave them in the comments now, I'll make sure she gets them. But then the event we had over at the Supreme Court, it was an 11 a.m. prayer memorial service. So we got over there nice and early, set things up. It was a nice sunny day, even though it was cold. Mark Houck was there with his family. Other pro-life leaders were there. Reverend Pat Mahoney, Fox News was there. CPAC News and others that were covering the event were there. And we prayed and we preached. And we had flowers representing the babies killed by Roe v. Wade, and we laid them there at the steps of the Supreme Court. It was a beautiful service, took an hour, and then after that went back to our D.C. office, which is right behind the Supreme Court. Wrapped up some work there and then headed to the airport. Our executive director and I were taking the same flight back to Florida. We had lunch there at the airport, and then we had some interaction with our staff as we got ready to fly back. Flew back in the evening, and I rested on the plane. Usually I work on the flights, but after these days of activity, had a nice restful flight home, and then got into bed as soon as I got back to my office Monday night, the 22nd. And those were those days of the Pro-Life Super Bowl, as we call it. I know that so many of you took part in these events, and I'm grateful for that. We at Priests for Life are grateful for your participation, especially those who came to our events or followed them online. God bless you. Let's all be encouraged by what we are all doing in this great cause. I couldn't be happier doing it. I'm grateful for this opportunity to share with you every hour of my day, every day, because it's all devoted to serving the Lord of life and to those most vulnerable, our unborn brothers and sisters, and to helping you to do the same. God bless you. Talk to you soon.